3. Just tell me when. I'm Nathan with Blue Oat. Today I am going to do a gear review of the DMM Kinisi or Kinzie. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but the Kinzie Max saddle by DMM. And I'm specifically going to kind of compare it with my old Tree Motion Pro saddle. Okay. Now, just for total disclaimers, I'm not sponsored by either brand. I'm not a spokesperson for Tree Stuff or Bartlett, although I highly recommend both of those websites, bartlettman.com and treestuff.com. I love Tree Stuff especially. They have been fantastic with customer service. They're an amazing online distributor for tree care stuff, including these harnesses. So definitely check them out and ask for a deal, ask for a discount code, but I am not a spokesperson for them. So I'm just gonna give a totally honest review. This Tree Motion Max, or not Max, Tree Motion Pro saddle, when I had it like about 2020 is when I bought it. 2021, it was like right at the end of the year. This was around $600 back then, and now the Tree Motion Pro saddle is just over $660. It is just over $660. The Kinzie Max, on the other hand, is almost $900. It is like right now on treestuff.com, it's listed for $889.99. So it's very close to $900. So you would expect a huge difference in quality here for that kind of difference in money. But you can see that they are very, very similar to each other, and I'm gonna go through them. I also want to say that the suspenders that I have on both they were added by me. They are not sold with these saddles. And so I'll kind of talk about that because I think it's a great addition to add suspenders to these harnesses. It helps distribute the weight of the chainsaw onto your shoulders, especially if you're climbing with a bigger saw. It's really nice to have these suspenders. And also they provide like an additional storage option for like a tourniquet or a chest bungee that you can fabricate on your own. Just a nice quick little chest bungee to have on your suspenders. So it's kind of cool. I really like them, but ignore the suspenders when you're comparing the harnesses because that's not what is provided. Okay. So, anyways, let's start with the Tree Motion. I really loved this saddle. It was the most comfortable saddle that I could find. I stepped up from a Petzl Sequoia and I got the Tree Motion. That was a big price jump for me back then. It was like going from $400 to $600, but it was worth it because the back pad was bigger. And that means a lot to me because I have really bad back injuries. So I need as much support in my back as possible. But I also really liked the double rope bridge that Tree Motion offered. You can always back up a rope bridge with another saddle, but I just liked how Tree Motion had their setup. And you know, this has been a great saddle. It's very modular. It's easy to add. You know, aftermarket hooks onto it. And the way that I set up my suspenders is I took a Petzl ring open and I put it on the back here. And so my suspenders just kind of come to one point there. These are just Cobalt suspenders from Lowe's. Like they're like $30 or something, and they work great. They don't really color match, but that's okay. And then I use this Schembiner, I think, and the CMI. It's a CMI hook. And I would hang my chainsaw lanyard right there with just either a ring or 2 carabiners. I would have one carabiner, a small carabiner to hook to the smaller saws, and a larger carabiner so I could hook to the handles of bigger saws. So it was like a big carabiner on this side and a small carabiner on that side. And whichever one I had to use, I would hook the other one onto there, and it would let the chainsaw lay in the center of my spine, which is really good when you have to climb with a chainsaw. Okay, now I also added these. These were also Cobalt pouches that you can just buy from Lowe's. and they came in handy to put them on the risers because, you know, when you're doing like a cable job installation, you gotta put little tools in your pouches or have those cable stops or whatever. It's nice to have these pouches on hand. You can also get like a little phone lanyard and then strap that over your phone and stuff that into the pouch. Really nice to have that as well. I made an adjustable rope bridge with a Wild Country rope man, and it doesn't work super well, but it does work. It's very hard to adjust. You know, you really gotta fight it. Really gotta fight it to make it go. But you could use this. You could use a CT rolling lock here as well. But you can make some adjustable. You can make adjustments to your rope bridge with something like this. Or I could also have just only threaded one strand through there, and that would make it a lot easier. But then you're only on one strand. You're not adjusting both at the same time. So all in all, this has been a fantastic harness. I recommend it highly to anybody who doesn't have a tree motion already yet. Like definitely consider getting one if you climb a lot. And then I used this knee ascender, which is the Saka by Climbing Innovations. This is just a fantastic knee ascender. Tree Stuff doesn't sell it, unfortunately, but West Spur does. And I highly recommend this knee ascender if you don't already have one. And the way that the Saka would work is I would just clip it onto this part of my suspenders, and then it goes down to my boot floop, and then it just tends itself so nicely. And when I'm done, I unclip it from my floop, pass it around my back, and just clip it back to there, or just somewhere out of the way, and it would just stay behind my back very easily. Now, every now and then it might get stuck in a hook or something and get a little bit cumbersome, but that was actually very rare. Most of the time it just hung out across my back with no problem, and then when it's time to climb again, I just simply unhook it and it's ready. It just deploys super fast. So really a good system here. I had a great system going. I decided to try out the Kinzie Max. It was approaching Christmas time, and I am always neglected by my wife and my parents for Christmas, so I got sad and I decided to just treat myself to a Christmas present. And I mean, this looks like a Christmas harness as well. If you look at it, it's like a red and green. They're mimicking the tree motion. I don't know the backstory, but I know that DMM worked with the engineers from Tree Motion. At least that's what I understand. So they're not like stealing the design. They have some kind of agreement going on, because these are DMM hardware originally as well. So DMM and Tree Motion have some kind of symbiotic relationship, and so DMM came out with something that looks a lot like the Tree Motion. And people are like, oh, it's just another. Some people are saying it's just another Tree Motion, and then other people that are trying to sell it are saying, no, it's so much better. It's so much better than a Tree Motion. And I'm going to give you totally honest feedback of what I think, okay? I think that it's a lot more money, okay? And it's like an extra $300, okay? There are some improvements. I'm going to go over what those improvements are that I have noticed. But there's also a lot of hype, and we live in this very materialistic society that's always trying to get the next glamorous upgrade. And we see that with like iPhones and iPads and computers and stuff like that. Well, all right, the arborist industry is doing it as well with all kinds of cool harnesses and tools and things like that. So all that to say, is it worth the $900 on its own if you don't already have a Tree Motion? Yeah, it's worth it. It's a good harness. It's a really, really comfortable harness, and I do think there are some minor improvements over the Tree Motion. But is it worth like buying a new harness if you already have one of these and it's still in good condition? Probably not. It's probably not worth all that extra glamour and hype. So that's my start of my honest review. Let's go over some of these improvements. By far, the biggest one that at a glance is the double locking rope bridge cams. I mean, these things are awesome. They adjust these you can adjust both strands of the rope bridge with total ease. You can even be hanging on the ring and like lift your weight up and then use your fingers to prop that, and you can make a rope bridge adjustment while you're loading the rope bridge. So that is fantastic. I love that. I'm gonna go to the other side of this rope bridge, and I'm gonna point out that they did these sewn eyes here, and they have it on just a hard bar right there. So, this I think this was a cool idea, but it misses the mark for me a little bit. I'm actually gonna swap this out back to just the standard tree motion of a stopper knot system, because here's why. When I'm using my rope bridge range, my ring often gets interrupted right here on this grizzly splice. Now, if they had done like a traditional berry splice, then it wouldn't be an issue. But because they did this grizzly splice and it's like bulky right there, it's just not as smooth. I don't like it as much. So, that's just my preference, but I'm gonna swap this out over back to the stopper knot style. I like that stopper knot a little bit better. And all right, coming down here, we've got these weird red straps. Now you can see I've cut mine to a shorter length. They come initially, they're like that. They're really, really long. In fact, all this webbing material is super long. I had to cut some of that too. They bring it, it comes with just so much excess so that you can fit it to how you want it. But you're gonna need to cut some of that material off, otherwise it's just gonna get in the way. But this is an interesting thing. They added this red bungee elastic strap that kind of helps keep the leg pads in place. I still don't know whether I like it or not, because it's an additional thing to have to undo and put back in, and it's kind of hard to get it in there. So what I've been experimenting with is I've just been leaving I've been unclipping the leg buckles and leaving these really loose, and then when I get my leg buckles on, I just cinch it, and then before I take my harness off, I open it up again. So I tried fooling with the hook a few times, but it takes a lot of fiddling to get that hook, especially when it's new. I don't know what the longevity of this is going to be either. This is just plastic, so I can see that like eventually breaking. I don't know. I'm a little bit undecided about how much of an improvement these leg straps really provide, as opposed to just having a nice fitted leg strap buckle. I think that the elastic red maybe is helping hold it in place on my legs a little bit better, but it is a little bit more cumbersome to get in and out of the harness. That's one thing that I was really good at just grabbing my harness by the suspender straps and just stepping into it, and boom, boom, and I'm in. And I just do 3 buckles and I'm ready to go. With this, I have to like fish my boot into this space and not get stuck on these red straps. And if I take them off, then they're hard to get off, and they're like just hanging there. So it's just a little bit more cumbersome, but it does probably provide a little bit of extra snug fit, keeping your leg pads in a better position. It's another point of adjustment too. It's another point of adjustment, which is nice, so you can more custom fit how your harness feels. And then the other thing that I like about it is it adds a splash of red color to the leg straps, that's pretty cool. So now let's keep going here. I chose a pair of suspenders off of Amazon so that I could find a color that would match the harness better, like with a red stitch pattern and black. So that worked out. And then I just kind of made some alterations to put my chest bungee attachment with the suspender straps, so I can easily hook in and out of, you know, an SRS system. And then this side here, this isn't the fault of the harness at all. It's the suspender straps. There's not a pocket on this side. So my tourniquet is like a lot uglier looking on this than it is over here, because there's not a nice little pouch to stuff it into. But that's with the suspenders. That's not with the harness. All right, I'm gonna keep going here. Another thing with the DMM Kinisi Max is they provide a tremendous amount of extra rope here. So, you know, if you don't have tools to stow it, then it's gonna be hanging down like crazy. These don't come with it. You have to buy these separate. All right, so this is how much extra rope you got here. So yeah, you can give yourself like a ridiculously long rope bridge if you want. But the way that I climb, I never do this, ever. Okay, I use an Art spider jack a lot, so I actually like having a tighter rope bridge, and I also do a lot of SRS, so or SRT. I do a lot of that, so I like having less extension on my rope bridge when I'm climbing. I like to only have enough to be able to have a good range of turning with my hips and doing the limb walks and stuff. I never need that much extension, okay? So after this video, I am going to cut a lot of this off, and I'm going to put it out the other side here, and putting stopper knots in place. I wanted to keep it the way it was until I did this video review. All right, we're gonna work our way up. They've added a nifty little attachment here. They've changed that from the Tree Motion, so this has a little bit less friction than over here where the risers attach. So that's an improvement. I don't know really if I can say that I felt the difference there, but it is an improvement, I would say. They did this thing also where they made these quick stops that are adjustable, so you can cut the length down and pull this thing out and move it somewhere else. So kind of like let me see here. As opposed to these where they were sewn hard, like right here. This is where it's been, you know. Well, no, that's not a good example either. I'm sorry, hang on. See, I did adjust the length here, and I stitched it back on itself. It's probably not to ANSI standards there, but let's see here. I'm trying to show another one. Yeah, I mean, they're the first ones to come up with this system where you can add, you can just kind of take this out and put it anywhere, and it's supposed to be a nice hard stop, so you don't have to like double that back and stitch it, have the factory stitch it or whatever. But the problem with it is I've already found that it backed out on its own on this one, so I guess maybe you're supposed to use Loctite with it, but I lost the backing on this one. So for this one, I'm just gonna have to take it out and do a conventional kind of stitch method. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, this is a cool idea, but it's not bomb-proof. I lost half of one of these already just from climbing around. All right, another advantage is they made it so that this buckle can be adjusted all the way to the right or all the way to the left or in the center, and all you got to do is choose where you want it to be, and then you can trim it down from there. So there's a lot of webbing that it comes with. I've already trimmed mine down to fit it so that it sits all the way to the right. And the reason I chose to do it that way is because it offsets from the tendon. I think this is called the tendon. This is the new knee ascender system that I decided to get along with this harness. Okay, so that's a cool adjustment feature, that it can adjust all the way that way or all the way that way. You don't have to have it in the middle if you don't want to. I don't remember, but I think, yeah, with this one, it just is what it is. See, it's just hard stitched right here to the one side. You don't have the choice to put it in the middle or to put it on the other side. Okay, so that's an improvement. These buckles, they operate the exact same way. You have to hit them both at the same time to pull it out. If you hit one or the other, it won't work. So you have to hit both at the same time to pull it out. My ground team, that when I got hurt, they could not figure that out. So they were fooling with it, trying to get my harness off, and I was unconscious. And they were trying to push the buttons and couldn't get it out. And so they ended up just cutting it off. And so then Tree Stuff sent me this one as a replacement back in 2021. So, but yeah, make sure your ground team is familiar in the horrible event that they have to get the harness off of you, because it would have been nice if they didn't have to cut my harness. Anyway, back to the Kinzie Max here. I'm going to talk about one more thing that I think is pretty cool, and that is that they've made a special knee ascent system that can go with this harness. It's like custom for this harness, and that is this DMM tendon, I think is what it is. And they send you the tubing and this bungee material and these little clasps thingies, and it just screws into the holes along the harness rim. Now, if you don't have this, then you don't get this red lining anymore. Notice back over here on the Teufelberger, you have this red lining as part of the color scheme, but they took that away for the Kinzie Max. It's just black, unless you buy this extra $40 bungee system, okay? And the bungee system does not come with a knee ascender either. It just doesn't. So it does come with this little swivel carabiner, which is cool. But you have to buy a suitable knee ascent option. So I used this Camp Turbo chest ascender to go with it, because it's red mainly and it goes with the colors, but it also is really, really nice. The Camp is so smooth, super, super smooth. And then I have just another red climbing carabiner that clips to my floop. I use the same floop as I had on the Saka, and I just have a green piece of Dyneema webbing to kind of make that link. And when I'm using it, it puts the bungee, it just keeps the bungee behind you in this tubing. The bungee's running all the way behind the harness, all the way to here. And then it comes with extra bungee, a lot of extra bungee, and I didn't want to cut it, so I folded it back, and I've got like a doubled up bungee for this section right here. And I had to use zip ties to secure the top portion to the bottom portion, because that's a custom way of doing it that they don't provide you with the option of doing that. So I had to sort of jerry rig that. But my bungee is a little bit stronger. It's a little bit more reinforced, okay? So that's how I chose to do that. Then I bought a couple of these stow loops, these gear stows. They are like rigid, flexible. They're like really heavy duty, but flexible plastic. I put one on my bottom loop so that it can just clip on my bottom leg part of my saddle, so that I can just clip it right under my leg, and it keeps my knee ascender system totally out of the way. It's very easy to go back into the knee ascender system. Okay. Is this an improvement over the Tree Motion? Having this ability to put the tendon on here, I think the tendon could go on the Tree Motion as well. Okay, so it's really not a point to the Kinzie anymore, because I think it can go to the Tree Motion as well. But it is specifically designed for the Kinzie, and it is a cool knee ascent system idea. And if you don't already have a Saka, then I think that this is really sweet, okay? But if you do already have a Saka, then the Saka is really good as well. And I would maybe just stick with that rather than buying a whole other knee system thing. By the way, another reason why I went ahead and bought this extra harness is because I train other climbers. So I'm gonna give my old tree motion to one of my climbers. I'm not just buying the new harness just to have a new harness, okay? Okay, last thing I'm gonna go over, and that is on the back here. I'll compare the backs. So with the tree motion, there's like a green ring back here, and I cut it off to reduce some weight. There's this, I've done some alterations to mine. I haven't done any alterations to the Kinzie Max. It comes with this little eyelet, and it's a cool looking little eyelet, and that's what I want to use for my chainsaw. But they didn't provide a webbing option that is dead center for me to put this hook dead center. I want to put the hook dead center so that when I'm resting my chainsaw, it's totally in line with my spine. I don't want it off to the side here. I don't really want it off to the side there. So I chose to swap my chainsaw lanyard attachment system around a little bit, and I'm still getting used to it. I don't know for sure if I like it or not, but I made a custom hook so that the chainsaw hooks onto that and hangs dead center in line with my spine. And then I have to just unhook it. It's interesting. It's a different feeling. It's hard to do behind your back as well. It was definitely easier to just reach behind and hook on like that, but I can't do that. I'm not doing that anymore. There's some pros and cons. One of the pros is with doing it like this that I no longer get stuck on this hook. Okay, I've been stuck on chain link fences before because this hook like went into it and I can't get out. I don't have to worry about that anymore with that. But a disadvantage is this hook tends to grab other things while I'm using the saw. So I have to kind of hold it with one hand and operate the saw. Otherwise, I run the risk of it reaching out and hooking onto something and messing up my reach. But I can also hook this now. I can hook my chainsaw onto anything. Like I can hook it onto just my lanyard or whatever. I don't have to have a hook to put my chainsaw on anymore because the chainsaw has a hook. So that is how I got around the lack of a straight hook attachment like the tree motion has. But that is a difference between the two. Okay. You know what? I just thought of one more thing, and I know I keep saying last thing. This really hopefully is the last thing. And that is the back pad on the large size is a lot bigger. I really like that. This has a bigger back pad than the Tree Motion Pro. And I mean, when I first got the Kinzie, I got it in a medium size. And then it was a lot smaller. So if you want a big back pad and you're a bigger guy, then you need to get the large size. And it just gives you a little bit more surface. Like this is already really good, but this is just a little bit better, okay? It'll also bring your ring to ring on your hips. It'll bring your ring to ring a little closer. So that's a little bit easier to access those hip rings as well. Anyway, all right, that's an honest gear review of the setup that I'm using now. Hope this helps you guys. Stay safe out there.